Imagine sitting peacefully at home when suddenly three men in police uniforms storm into your yard and start grabbing your wife. Now imagine what happens when her husband, a former Navy SEAL, steps outside. I always thought of myself as just a regular guy. My name's Daniel. Sure, I once served as a Navy SEAL, but those days are behind me. Now, I just want a quiet life with my wife, Emma, in our suburban neighborhood. Life was simple, peaceful. Emma loved gardening. Every afternoon, she'd be out in the yard, wearing her favorite white shirt and jeans, planting flowers, watering the lawn, smiling at every little bloom. For us, that yard was happiness. But little did we know, trouble was already on its way. If you've ever lived in a neighborhood with an HOA, homeowners association, you know the kind of nonsense they can pull. Ours was no different. Constant complaints. Your grass is too long. Your car isn't parked right. Petty, controlling, and always breathing down our necks. Emma hated it. She'd vent her frustration to me, but I always told her, "Relax, honey. Ignore them. They just bark. They won't bite." But this time, the HOA crossed a line I never imagined they would. It was a warm afternoon. I was in the garage, fixing up some tools, when I heard shouting outside. I stepped out, and what I saw made my blood boil. Three men in police uniforms were standing in our yard, but there was something off about them. Too sloppy, too fake. Still, they looked convincing enough to scare someone. One of them yelled at Emma, "Ma'am, you're violating HOA rules. You need to come with us right now." Emma was shocked. Her voice trembled. "Wait, what? You can't just take me. Where's your badge? Where's the paperwork?" But instead of answering, one of the so-called officers grabbed her arm. Another shoved her down onto the grass. And that was their biggest mistake. I stormed out of the garage, my fists clenched. "Let her go right now." One of them smirked and barked back. "Or what? You gonna stop us?" That was all I needed to hear. Years of SEAL training kicked in. I didn't even think. My body just reacted. I swung an elbow straight into the first guy's jaw. He crumpled instantly. The second one lunged at me from the side, but I grabbed his arm, twisted it, and slammed him into the ground. The third reached for something in his pocket. Maybe a weapon, maybe just more bluff. But I wasn't taking chances. I moved in fast, pinned him down, and locked his wrist until he screamed in pain. Within seconds, all three of them were on the ground. Emma, still shaken, looked at me wide-eyed. "Daniel, they're not real cops, are they?" I looked closely at their uniforms. The patches were cheap knockoffs. The badges? Fake plastic. These weren't cops. They were imposters. Thugs. Hired muscle. I pulled one up by the collar and growled, "Who sent you?" He hesitated, then muttered the truth. It was the HOA. I couldn't believe it. The Homeowners Association had actually sent fake cops to intimidate us, to scare my wife. That's when I called 911. Minutes later, the real police arrived. Sirens, lights, the whole thing. When they saw the imposters in their fake uniforms, they didn't waste a second. Handcuffs clicked, rights were read, and those three were shoved into the back of a squad car. The police chief walked over to me and shook his head. "Mr. Daniel, if you hadn't handled this the way you did, your wife could have been seriously hurt. You saved her." Emma grabbed my hand, tears in her eyes. "I knew it. You'll always be my hero." The fallout was huge. The homeowner's president was investigated, charged, and removed from their position. The three fake cops sent straight to prison. And something even bigger happened. The neighborhood finally stood up. People who had been afraid to speak out against the HOA found their voice. They realized they didn't have to live in fear. One neighbor said, "Daniel, you didn't just protect your wife, you protected all of us." And maybe he was right, because that day, I realized something important. You can leave the SEALs, you can retire from the military, but being a protector, that never leaves you. As long as I'm breathing, no one, not an HOA, not fake cops, not anyone, is ever going to hurt my family again.